Good afternoon. I'm Jordan Roth, and this is episode 31 of DALLÄSTHETIC. Thanks for watching. I'm here with Joachim West. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Joachim, what brings you to Dallas?
My art show at Road 2 Art.
Okay, cool.
Coming up this Saturday.
So, tell me, I guess we'll start a little bit further back. When did you first know you were an artist?
Oh, I don't remember. I mean, I've always been an artist. I mean, like, my brother's an engineer, you know, and my mother tells me that when she would give him crayons, he would just break them. And, you know, when she'd give me crayons, I was already drawing, you know, beautifully as a child. So, I mean, I've always, and she would always, you know, every year she would enroll me in different art classes, or she'd, you know, when we were spending the summer in Spain, her best friend there is an artist, and she'd send me off with her to do private lessons. So just my whole life.
And you went straight into college as an art student, right?
Yeah. I mean, I started actually doing arts and technology because I wanted to be able to make 3D models on the computer. But I sort of fell in love with painting these sort of experimental paintings, and I wanted to do that, so I stopped doing the other thing, and I just focused on painting
And drawing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how would you describe your aesthetic?
Oh, you know, as functional. I mean, I'm not a designer. I'm not really interested in decorating. I'm more interested in art that either like adds another tool to the toolbox of what, you know, what we can do with art, and I'm interested in art that says something about the world, you know. So creativity and saying something about what it means to be human, like those are the things that I value.
And you don't shy away from controversy?
No, because I think that, you know, they say sex, religion, politics, those are the things that you don't talk about, but those are like the most, some of the most important things in the world. Like,
yeah.
I think people should talk about them, so I talk about them.
Yeah. I've always wondered why you're not supposed to talk about sex, religion, or politics.
Because it's so easy to offend people. People are, you know, a lot of people are very sensitive about those issues, and I think also in the United States we have this sort of Puritan background, and culturally that's sort of ingrained in America.
It's weird that it's what I usually talk about, at dinner or, with new people.
Yeah.
Go straight for.
You're not supposed to, though.
Oh, I know. But at Joachim West show, it's going to be kind of at the tip of your mind, oftentimes. Your works are like highly, well, I don't know if the word would be saturated with line. It wouldn't be saturated, but it's highly dense for the most part. A lot of line work and drawing. Do you consider yourself like more of a draftsman or a painter, or does it matter?
There's a thin line between the two that I step over all the time. I don't worry about it. It's just either I don't worry about it.
Okay. So your most recent work is a new show called Broken.
Mm-hmm.
And how many years have you been working on this body?
Really about 4
Wow.
or so. I started doing it. I started like coming up with the idea for it when I was living in Oak Cliff, and then I moved to Spain and started really putting the pieces together. And then I came back to Galveston, and I started doing all the drawing and painting for it.
What took you to Spain?
Well, my family's there, and I love being near my family. We just wanted to go. We wanted to be. I wish I could go and be there now. I've always been going back and forth between the United States and Spain because that's where my family is from and where I still have family.
So what happened on the most recent venture back to Spain?
Well, my mother is from a little town called Alaquas, which is right on the outskirts of the city of Valencia. And we've been going back and forth for a long time. But this last time, I noticed that the walls were covered in Nazi graffiti. And for me, that was like emotionally outrageous because I'm a Jew. And it was like, it reminds you that there are people that still, want you dead, just because of who you are. And it's nothing, it's just who I am, and people want me dead. It's so oppressive. And so I started to just sort of document it. And I noticed that there's this sort of war that was going on with Antifa people who'd come and they'd like spray paint out the Nazi, white power symbols or the swastikas, and they'd make, the hammer and sickle, and they'd write like, Nazis to the gulag, or, and then the Nazis would come back in and spray paint over those and write like, Adolf Hitler was right, over on top of it. And this was going on all over.
Wow.
And I noticed traveling around Europe, I saw the same thing everywhere. Europe seems kind of polarized right now, and I think the topic is fascinating and scary. And so I started this project where I was filming everything, and I was trying to figure out why people were behaving that way by doing interviews with people. And I started to investigate like the local ceramics industry, because there's something like Valencia is completely covered in ceramic tiles. Like everything is covered in these beautiful tiles, and they have this tradition that goes back for a very, very, very long time. Ceramics are these so ancient, like an ancient art form, and I kind of felt like that would lead me on a path that would help me understand what was happening in that region better. And I kind of came to the conclusion, or I started to realize through talking to people that the world is getting very small. Like the technology has made the world very small, and that has led to like culture, the culture changing. Like, for example, now in Spain they celebrate, Halloween. Like there's Black Friday, like things that you never saw in Spain, and their local customs and holidays are sort of dying out a little bit. And at the same time, like in the ceramics industry, for example, like is dying because now people can buy the things that they need very cheaply from China. And in a way, it's really a great thing, like that people can buy their goods more cheaply. But at the same time, they're losing some of their cultural heritage, this art form is going away, and that's kind of sad. So I think that people are frustrated because of the economic implications of industries dying, and they're frustrated because of changing culture, and it's causing tension.
So they feel like they're losing their identity.
Yeah, or their identity is changing. But at the same time, you have to realize that, or they have to realize that Spain has always had this procession of different people groups coming into the region and living there.
Always.
Yeah. So they're a mixed people, and they should realize that all of Europe is. They should realize that they're a mixed people, that this is nothing new, and the world will go on. And really, in my opinion, the solution, I think, is for people to be gentle and patient and kind to each other, and just keep living, because things will get better. The technology is improving the world tremendously, and I just don't want to see any more violence. I think a lot of us are just tired of people fighting all the time, so that's kind of what this show is about. It's about, like, I wish people would just learn to, like, love each other despite their differences, and realize that everybody has their their failings, and everybody makes mistakes, and that we should be patient with each other.
Yeah.
So that's what this show is about. And it's connected to what I was doing before, which was this drawing project, where essentially what happened was my best friend really committed suicide. And he was like a very gentle kind of person, and I found it very shocking that he was able to do something that was really so violent, as to kill himself. I didn't really think that he had that in him, and it led me to start to ask questions about, about whether that's something inherent in all people. If everybody has some violence in them, if everybody has the capacity to do something so violent. And I started by reading books, by people who were also investigating that issue, and then it sort of morphed into these drawings about that sort of depicted all the different ways that people, can engage in some sort of violence, that we all engage in some form of violence, though it's sometimes not so extreme. Like even something like smoking is a tiny form of violence that a person does to themselves, in my mind, because we know that it leads to cancer and death.
And it affects other people too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we all we all struggle. We all have these struggles, and you know. So that sort of works along with the same message that I'm trying to talk about in this show. You know, that idea that none of us are perfect, and therefore we should all be patient and kind and love each other despite our differences and despite our failings, because it's the only way that the world is going to work.
Yeah.
I think.
And so how does that kind of resolve itself through the work?
How does it resolve itself through the work? You mean like, how do I show that the answer is love?
Yeah.
Well, at least in this exhibition, you know, there's a sort of narrative that's a very like loose narrative, but at the end of the narrative, my character, who has been given the superpower of art, to the ability to use art to change the world, he makes this bowl, this ceramic bowl, you know, because the ceramics in Valencia, and he sort of pours out his gift into this magical thing that he's made, and it changes people, and people relax and realize that the world isn't so black and white, and they love each other and they treat each other better. And I mean, that's just a fantasy, but it's you know, to a certain extent, but to another extent, I mean, there's something real there. I mean, I did this this project where I realized that there were only a couple of colorized images of scenes from the Holocaust on the internet, and so I had this idea to make a bunch of them, and then to start and to just give them to Holocaust museums or to programs that teach about the Holocaust. And at first I met with like resistance, like nobody seemed interested. But when I got back from Spain, I'd started when I was in Oak Cliff. When I got back from Spain, I ended up just putting it on Board Panda, and I ended up getting 1 million hits. And I ended up getting contacted by, you know, the BBC News, and it just sort of went out everywhere. It got put into a bunch of different, you know, a bunch of different news sites grabbed it and promoted it. You know, that there's a lot of ignorance about the Holocaust, and that something like colorized images of the Holocaust can help people remember that these are real humans. Like the world isn't black and white. The world's in color. And then the next year, there was another study published saying that there was a tremendous portion of the world, again, that isn't familiar with the Holocaust, or doesn't understand like how extensive it was. That 6 million Jews were killed, and so it like started trending again. And you know, now I'm in like the top 1% of Board Panda, and it's been shared. It's got picked up again by even more news outlets, and now you look up, you know, colorized images of the Holocaust, and the first thing is that, which is the funny thing, because I'm not colorizing images in Photoshop is not my thing. Yeah. I just people weren't doing it. So I learned how to do it so that I could do it for this. And it was the results were humbling for me, honestly, because it's not my thing.
And I've seen those images. They're really, really powerful. And they do, it brings you kind of into the scene in a weird way.
Yeah, it makes it more real in some way.
And that's when after that is when your work became a lot more colorful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's connected. Even within the show, it's connected. Like, you know, that project, the documentary that I made when I was in Spain, and then the drawings afterwards that I made when I was in Galveston, they're all connected, and they all come together in the show. And I think people are going to love it. You know, I hope they love it.
Yeah.
I hope it makes people feel like, you know, it helps them understand that they should be loving towards other people. You know,
it's a good story, and it's, I mean, the message is like pretty clear and really important.
Yeah. Thank you, Jordan.
So, well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Oh,
today.
no. It's been great.
So the show opens on Saturday.
Yeah.
And Thor Johnson also has a
Yeah.
show for Broken.
Yeah.
That'll be in the project room. And
Yeah.
we're really looking forward to that. So
It's
Saturday
great.
night at Row 2 Art in the Cedars.
Yeah, please come out.
1501 South Irvay. Looking forward to seeing everybody. That's it for today. Thanks.